The slap echoed through the room like a gunshot. Lydia's face stung as she stumbled back, her eyes wide with shock. "You think you can praise my man and walk away?" Roxy hissed, her perfectly manicured nails digging into Lydia's arm. "Look at me when I'm talking to you." Lydia's voice trembled. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't mean." "Shut up." Roxy's eyes burned with fury. "From now on, if I catch you even looking at him, I will make sure you regret the day you were born. Do you understand?" Lydia nodded quickly, tears welling in her eyes. Roxy shoved her away. "Good. Now get out of my sight." As Lydia hurried out of the room, Roxy turned to her reflection, adjusting her wig with a satisfied smirk. No one would ever come between her and her man. But what Roxy didn't know was that karma was watching, and it had a plan. Welcome to this gripping story, from HouseHelp to Oga's wife. Before we dive deeper, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to help our channel grow. Thank you so much for your support. Lydia adjusted her uniform nervously as she stood in the grand living room of the luxurious mansion. She had just been hired as a househelp through an agency, and this was her first day. The place was massive. Marble floors, golden chandeliers, and expensive art on the walls. Then she walked in. Roxy. The woman was stunning. Tall, flawless skin, and a walk that commanded attention. She eyed Lydia up and down before smiling. "Ah, you must be the new help," Roxy said, her voice smooth but with an edge. "Welcome. Just remember one thing, this is my house. You follow my rules." Lydia nodded quickly. "Yes, ma'am." Roxy smirked. "Good." Then he entered. The owner of the house, Chief Raymond. Tall, handsome, and radiating power. Lydia couldn't help but stare for a second. Roxy noticed. Her smile tightened. "Baby, this is Lydia. The new help." Chief Raymond nodded politely. "Welcome, Lydia." Lydia bowed slightly. "Thank you, sir." That was her first mistake. Because the moment Chief Raymond left the room, Roxy's expression turned icy. "Listen to me very carefully," she whispered, stepping closer. "That man is mine. You look at him again like that, and you'll be out on the street before you can blink." Lydia swallowed hard. "I understand, ma'am." But what Roxy didn't know was that Lydia wasn't just a househelp. She had a secret, and it was going to change everything. Lydia clutched the cleaning rag tightly, her knuckles turning white as she scrubbed the already spotless kitchen counter. Roxy's warning still rang in her ears. "That man is mine." But Lydia wasn't afraid. She was furious. Because Chief Raymond wasn't just Roxy's man. He was hers. Flashback. 3 months earlier. Lydia sat in a small, dimly lit cafe. Her hands shaking as she stared at the man across from her. Chief Raymond. His expression was unreadable, but his voice was firm. "Lydia, I need you to do this for me." She bit her lip. "You want me to pretend to be a maid? In your house? With her?" He sighed, running a hand over his face. "Roxy is dangerous. She's been stealing from me, blackmailing my associates, and I have proof she's involved in fraud. But I need more. I need you to get close to her." Lydia's heart pounded. "And what if she finds out who I really am?" Chief Raymond's eyes darkened. "She won't. Because as far as the world knows, you're just a househelp from the agency. Not the woman I actually love." Present day. Lydia's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of heels clicking against marble. "Roxy." "Lydia." Roxy snapped. "Why is there dust on the shelf? Are you blind?" Lydia forced herself to bow her head. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I'll clean it again." Roxy smirked. "Good. And remember, eyes down when my man is around." Lydia nodded, but as soon as Roxy walked away, her eyes flickered to the security camera in the corner. Chief Raymond was watching, and he gave her a small, secret nod. Later that night, Lydia crept silently through the dark hallway, her phone in hand. She had been collecting evidence for weeks, recordings of Roxy's shady phone calls, documents she had stolen from the safe, even photos of her meeting with known criminals. But tonight she had struck gold. She had found Roxy's diary. Her hands trembled as she flipped through the pages, her eyes widening at what she read. If Raymond ever finds out the truth about his brother's death, I'm finished. But I'll make sure he never does. Lydia's blood ran cold. Chief Raymond's brother hadn't died in an accident. Roxy had killed him. The next morning, Roxy stormed into the kitchen, her face twisted in rage. "Lydia!" she screamed. Lydia turned, feigning innocence. "Yes, ma'am." Roxy held up her diary. "Did you? This?" Lydia's heart stopped. She had been careless. Roxy's eyes burned with fury. "You stupid girl. Do you have any idea what you've just done?" Before Lydia could react, Roxy lunged at her. Roxy's manicured hands closed around Lydia's throat like a vice. "You nosy little rat," Roxy hissed, slamming Lydia against the refrigerator. "You think you can dig into my business and live to tell about it?" Lydia gasped for air, clawing at Roxy's wrists. The diary clattered to the floor, its damning pages splayed open for anyone to see. Just as black spots danced in Lydia's vision, a deep voice boomed through the kitchen. "Roxy! What the hell are you doing?" Chief Raymond stood in the doorway, his usually composed face twisted in rage. Roxy instantly released Lydia, who collapsed to the floor, coughing violently. "Baby, I can explain," Roxy began, her voice suddenly sweet. "Save it," Raymond growled. He knelt beside Lydia, helping her sit up. "Are you okay?" Lydia nodded weakly, her eyes darting to the open diary on the floor. Raymond followed her gaze and froze. Roxy lunged for the book, but Raymond was faster. He snatched it up, his eyes scanning the pages. With each word he read, his face grew darker. "You!" His voice shook with barely contained fury. "You killed my brother." Roxy's perfect mask cracked. "Raymond, it's not what you think." "Get out," he roared. "Before I do something we'll both regret." Roxy's eyes narrowed. "You'll regret this more than I will." With one last venomous look at Lydia, she stormed out, her heels clicking like gunshots on the marble. 1 hour later, Lydia sat in Raymond's study, a warm cup of tea in her shaking hands. "I knew she was dangerous," Raymond said, pacing like a caged lion. "But murder? My own brother." His voice broke. Lydia set down her cup. "We have proof now. We can go to the police." Raymond stopped pacing. "No, not yet. Roxy has connections everywhere. If we move too soon." He ran a hand over his face. "We need more. We need her to confess." Lydia frowned. "How?" A slow, dangerous smile spread across Raymond's face. "We give her exactly what she wants. Me." That night, Roxy answered Raymond's call on the first ring. "Miss me already?" she purred. "I made a mistake," Raymond said, his voice carefully controlled. "Come home. Let's talk." When Roxy arrived, the house was dark except for candlelight in the living room. Raymond stood by the fireplace, a glass of wine in hand. "You look beautiful," he said softly. Roxy smirked, swaying toward him. "I knew you'd come crawling back." As she reached for him, Raymond stepped aside, revealing Lydia standing in the shadows, her phone recording every word. "Now," Raymond said coldly, "tell me about my brother." Roxy's smile vanished. She looked between them, realization dawning. "You set me up." Lydia stepped forward, holding up the diary. "Confess, Roxy, or this goes straight to the police." For a heartbeat the room was silent. Then Roxy threw back her head and laughed. "You stupid, stupid girl," she said, reaching into her purse. "Did you really think I'd come unprepared?" The glint of metal flashed in the candlelight. A gun. The moment the gun appeared, time seemed to freeze. Lydia's breath caught in her throat. Raymond instinctively stepped in front of her, his body shielding hers. "Roxy, put it down," he commanded, his voice steady despite the weapon pointed at his chest. Roxy's hand didn't waver. "You think you can humiliate me in my own home? Trap me like some common criminal?" Her manic laugh sent chills down Lydia's spine. "I built this life. I killed for this life." The confession hung in the air like smoke. Raymond's jaw tightened. "So you admit it? You murdered my brother?" Roxy's finger twitched against the trigger. "He was going to expose everything. Just like you're trying to do now." Her wild eyes darted to Lydia. "And you brought this little cockroach into our home to help you?" Lydia's phone was still recording, hidden behind Raymond's back. Every word, every damning admission was being captured. But none of that would matter if Roxy pulled the trigger. Then, a miracle. The front door burst open. "Police." 6 officers rushed in, guns drawn. "Freeze. Drop the weapon." Roxy whirled around in shock. "What? How?" Raymond gave her a grim smile. "I called them before you arrived. Backup plan." For one terrifying second, Lydia thought Roxy might shoot anyway. But then, with a scream of rage, she threw the gun to the floor. As the officers swarmed Roxy, cuffing her and reading her rights, Lydia finally exhaled. It was over. Or so she thought. Because as the police led Roxy away, the woman locked eyes with Lydia and mouthed 2 words. "He's next." 1 week later, the police found enough evidence in Roxy's secret safe to put her away for life. Financial records, blackmail material, and most damning of all, the murder weapon used on Raymond's brother. Lydia stood beside Raymond on the courthouse steps as reporters shouted questions. "Chief Raymond, is it true your HouseHelp helped bring down a killer?" Raymond surprised everyone, especially Lydia, when he took her hand and raised it high. "This woman is no HouseHelp," he declared. "She's the bravest person I know. And soon." He turned to Lydia with a smile that made her heart stop. "She'll be my wife." The crowd erupted. Cameras flashed. But Lydia barely noticed. Because in that moment she saw him, a shadowy figure watching from across the street. A man with Roxy's eyes. And then he was gone. The wedding invitations had been sent. The white dress hung in Lydia's closet. Everything was perfect, except for the gnawing feeling that something was coming. Lydia stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows of their penthouse, watching the city lights twinkle below. Raymond's arms wrapped around her waist from behind. "Still thinking about that man outside the courthouse?" he murmured against her hair. Lydia leaned into his touch. "He looked just like Roxy," Raymond finished grimly. "Her twin brother, Daniel. He disappeared years ago after." His grip tightened. "After my brother's death." A chill ran down Lydia's spine. "You think he's back for revenge?" Before Raymond could answer, the lights went out. Total darkness. Then the sound of shattering glass. Lydia screamed as strong arms yanked her backward. Raymond shoved her toward the panic room just as a gunshot rang out. "Run!" Raymond roared. But it was too late. The emergency lights flickered on, revealing Daniel standing in the broken window, gun raised. His face was Roxy's, but colder, deadlier. "Hello, brother-in-law," Daniel sneered. "Did you really think you could bury my sister and live happily ever after?" Raymond stepped in front of Lydia. "This is between us. Let her go." Daniel's laugh was ice. "Oh no. Roxy wanted both of you dead." He cocked the gun. "And I always keep my promises to family." Just as his finger tightened on the trigger. Bang! Daniel staggered forward, his eyes wide with shock. Behind him stood Lydia's mother, smoking gun in hand. "You should have stayed gone, Daniel," the older woman said coolly. As Daniel collapsed, Lydia gasped. "Mama!" "But how?" Her mother lowered the gun. "I was Roxy and Daniel's HouseHelp 20 years ago. I saw what they did." She looked at Raymond with tears in her eyes. "I couldn't save your brother. But I just saved his." Lydia adjusted her veil as the wedding march began. This time there were no shadows lurking. no threats waiting in the wings. As she walked down the aisle toward Raymond, her Raymond, she realized the truth. Some love stories begin with lies. Some begin with danger. But theirs began with revenge. And ended with justice. The wedding was perfect. Lydia's ivory gown shimmered under the crystal chandeliers as she walked toward Raymond. Her heart pounding not from fear this time, but from overwhelming joy. The guests sighed as they exchanged vows, unaware of the darkness they'd survived to get here. But as the reception kicked off, Lydia's mother pulled her aside, her face grave. "There's something you need to see," she whispered, pressing a leather-bound ledger into Lydia's hands. Lydia's stomach dropped when she recognized Roxy's elegant handwriting covering the pages. But it wasn't just a diary. It was a blackmail ledger, filled with names, dates, and shocking amounts of money. "Page 47, her mother urged. Lydia's blood ran cold. There, in black and white, was an entry dated 5 years ago. Payment received from Chief Adebayo for elimination of Raymond's brother. 200 million naira. Daniel handled the job. Raymond's uncle. His favorite uncle. The man now smiling at them from the head table. Lydia's hands shook as she showed Raymond. His face went pale, then hardened into cold fury. "All this time," he breathed. The band played on as the happy couple exchanged a look that spoke volumes. The war they thought was over. It had just begun. The wedding cake sat untouched as Raymond excused himself, gripping the ledger like it was a live grenade. Lydia followed him into the private study, where he slammed the book onto the desk with a force that made the windows rattle. "We need to call the police," Lydia said immediately. Raymond shook his head, his jaw clenched. "Not yet. My uncle has half the force on his payroll." He flipped through the pages, his eyes darkening with each new revelation. "Look at this. Senator Williams, Justice Adelik, even the commissioner. They're all in his pocket." Lydia's stomach twisted. "Then what do we do?" A slow, dangerous smile spread across Raymond's face. "We give him exactly what he wants." The next morning, Raymond arrived at his uncle's mansion with a bottle of expensive champagne and a carefully crafted lie. "Uncle," he said, embracing the older man warmly, "I want to make you chairman of the family corporation." Chief Adebayo's eyes gleamed with greed. "My boy, what brought this on?" Raymond poured 2 glasses, his hands steady. "After everything you've done for me. Especially after my brother's death." He watched his uncle's face closely. "I know how much you loved him." The older man's smile didn't waver as he raised his glass. "To family." Raymond clinked glasses but didn't drink. Neither noticed Lydia slipping into the study upstairs. Lydia's hands trembled as she searched the massive oak desk. Drawer after drawer revealed nothing, until she pressed a hidden panel at the back. A small safe clicked open. Inside sat a pistol with a silencer, stacks of foreign currency, and a USB drive labeled, "Insurance." She pocketed it just as heavy footsteps approached. The door swung open to reveal Chief Adebayo's head of security. "Looking for something, Mrs. Raymond," he growled, reaching for his gun. Lydia didn't hesitate. She grabbed the antique letter opener from the desk and plunged it into his thigh. As the man howled in pain, she sprinted for the window, only to find Daniel standing there, very much alive, a gun pointed at her chest. "Hello again," he sneered. "Miss me?" Daniel's gun pressed cold against Lydia's ribs as he dragged her downstairs. The USB drive burned in her pocket like a live coal. In the grand sitting room, Raymond stood frozen, his uncle now pointing Raymond's own champagne glass at him with a smirk. "Did you really think I wouldn't test the drink?" Adebayo chuckled. "You always were a terrible liar, nephew." Daniel shoved Lydia forward. "Look what I caught upstairs. Your little rat was stealing from you." Adebayo's eyes locked onto the USB drive's outline in Lydia's dress pocket. His face went pale. "That doesn't leave this house," he hissed, suddenly frantic. "Daniel, shoot them both now." But as Daniel raised his gun, bang! Daniel dropped, clutching his shoulder. Lydia spun to see her mother in the doorway, smoke curling from her pistol. "You missed," Adebayo sneered. "I never miss," Mama replied calmly. Police sirens wailed outside. Adebayo bolted for the back door, only to collide with the commissioner himself, flanked by armed officers. "Chief Adebayo," the commissioner said coldly, holding up his phone where Lydia's live-streamed footage still played. "The whole country just saw your confession." Raymond pulled Lydia close as officers swarmed the room. "The USB," he whispered. Lydia smiled, showing him her empty pocket. "There was never a USB. I bluffed." 1 year later, the headlines called it the trial of the decade. Adebayo and his network received life sentences. Daniel turned state witness and got 20 years. On their first wedding anniversary, Raymond surprised Lydia with the deed to Adebayo's mansion, now fully renovated. "Our new home," he said, kissing her, "where every shadow has been brought to light." As they danced under the stars, Lydia finally felt it. Not just safety, not just love, but justice.